the last 17 years working in my own business to meet some incredible people. And in 1998 I went to a conference in California and I met this, didn't meet, but it was hundreds, thousands of people at this conference. There was this old man standing on the stage and I fell in love with him. And secondly I fell in love with his information. And his name is Dr. Art Costa. And to be honest, I stalked him for several years. I went to every conference he spoke at. I travelled around the world to listen to this man, and finally he looked at this woman in the audience and said, "I've seen you here before." And I now have the privilege of working very closely with this incredible gentleman and his co-author, Ben Acallick, and the other good-looking gentleman in the middle there is my now co-author, Graham Watts, who lives in London. So Art and Benna live in America, one on the east coast, one on the west coast. Graham and I are the proteges, being able to take over what will be considered to be a genius's work, which is very wonderful. And so Graham lives in London, I live in New Zealand. So it's a very global ideas that we get to bring, but they come from successful people. What makes successful people successful? Whether you're entrepreneurs, whether you're... In fact, Art's original research came from just looking at every walk of life. And there's been many other research studies now that actually mirror what he discovered. So we're going to have a quick look, but I wondered, you know, we talk about habits, and I love this poem because it says, a habit is something you repeat and repeat, like saying hello to the people you meet. Some habits are good, some habits are bad. Some make you happy, some make you sad. Habits are like a garden full of seeds. Some grow into flowers and others into weeds. Habits like exercising are good to do. Habits like smoking are bad for you. Some habits are noisy like cracking your toes. Some habits are gross like picking your nose. Once you have a habit, it's hard to lose, so be very careful with the ones you choose. Allow me to speak to you as a good friend and suggest the habits that I recommend. They're habits for your mind, that's right, they're just for you. They help you solve problems and know what to do. And that's really what these habits of mind are about. They're about when you're stuck, when you don't know what to do, when you are unsure about how to move forward, it's having those strategies and those habits to be able to move forward. And so that's when you'll really see these in play. And there are 16 of them. And in the time frame I have, of course, I can't go through all 16 in any depth, but I do want to go through a few that I think are very important when it comes to business and have definitely helped me in business and life. So essentially, if we did the quick flyby in 8 minutes and less, 30 seconds a habit, persisting means being able to stick to a task, being able to keep going when you're stuck. If plan A doesn't work, you try plan B. If plan B doesn't work, you try plan C, D and E. And you keep looking for other ways to solve the challenges you're having. Managing your impulsivity. That ability to be able to be impulsive is very important, but we need to manage that impulsivity at particular times, particularly when we're emotionally flooded or when things aren't working as we really would like them to. So being able to plan and stop, and successful people stop and think about what they're going to do before they do it. How many of you have children? They're very impulsive, most of them, aren't they? You know, sometimes they don't think before they act. I've discovered the same is sometimes true with husbands. And sometimes, it's up to you. But that being able to manage that impulsivity, and it's one that as a parent and as a wife I work on very hard for myself personally. Next one is listening with understanding and empathy. That ability to be able to hear and listen to somebody and be able to have that empathy, being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand what it's like from their point of view. Business, of course, that's very, very important. Thinking flexibly, being able to take an idea and change and be flexible with it, being able to look at things in a different way, coming from a different angle. Of course, that's how niche markets happen in business, because we go, hey, people are doing this, but what if I just did it this way? So it's that flexible thinking and looking at it from a different angle that can be very, very useful. Thinking about your thinking, probably the key habit of mind about being able to think and be aware of your own thought processes. So important as a businesswoman and as a person to be able to be aware of the thinking that's going on and being aware if it's good or not so good thinking, and then knowing what to do to change that, but being aware of your thought processes that push you forward and hold you back. Striving for accuracy. Of course, in business, this is very important when we're talking about accounting, we're talking about money, when we are promising things, being able to strive to be the best that we can be. Now, this doesn't mean we have to be perfect all the time, but it does mean successful entrepreneurs strive to be the best that they can in every area of their life. So whether it's their health and fitness, whether it's their relationships, working with their own kids, with their clients and their business, trying to be the best that you can be in all areas. Questioning and problem posing, being able to ask the questions and pose the problems that are the real questions and the real problems that need solving. There's a challenge we have in this country, and there's a law that's just been passed because our youth are dying on our roads. And you may be aware of that they've now raised the age that children, students, teenagers can get their driver's license. My question is that the right problem? Is it the age of the driver that's the problem on the road? And I think the answer is no. It's got nothing to do with the age of the driver. It's not going to solve any of the problems. So we're not necessarily dealing with the right problems right now to be able, and asking the right questions to be able to solve them. So in business, we also need to be able to really look from a bigger standpoint to be able to solve the problems we have. Applying our past knowledge to new situations. This is a great habit of mine, being able to say, hey, this is what I know, and how can I apply it to a different situation? Probably that's one of the keys for me in business, coming from a teaching background and being a teacher. I actually joined the Her Business Network in the early 2000s, about 2000, and I joined because I wanted to meet business people. I wanted to find out success strategies. And what I found was there were wonderful models that I could take from business and apply to education. Being able to take what I knew or other people were using successfully, apply it in a different place, and no one had done that before. So that was really great. And successful. Communicating, thinking and communicating with clarity and precision. Being able to be clear on our words. But words and thoughts are totally intertwined. If you hear fuzzy language, it means fuzzy thought. Mm-hmm. Ever hear kids say this? You know, it's kind of that weird stuff. It's like, well, what is kind of, what is weird, what is stuff? And so we want to help our students as well as our employees as well as ourselves be really clear about our communication. Before we can do that, we have to be clear on our thoughts. Gathering data through all our senses, knowing that there are 5 senses, or as the Rudolf Steiner School teaches, 12 different senses that we need to be aware of to be able to gather data so that we can learn fully. And being able to take things from different angles, not just being able to read it, but being able to do things from many different senses. Creating, imagining and innovating. I think this is the key for business success in New Zealand. We are a very creative people as a population. And being able to take ideas and create and innovate and do new things with them is what I call the gold of the 21st century. So being able to just create and change things and innovate. Responding with wonderment and awe. If I was allowed to have a favourite habit, this would be mine. That wow moment, being able to stop in our busyness and see the dewdrop on the leaf and see the perfection of a spider's web and just see in childlike wonder what goes around. Now, I want to make sure that you have a wow moment and that you can have a wow moment any time, any day of your life and every day of your life. So please make sure there's nothing in your hands for a moment. And please make a W with one hand and a W with the other. And please put them up to your cheeks like this. Open your mouth wide and go, wow! Repeat a wild person next to you. Go, wow! Responsible risks. Entrepreneurs do this. They take a responsible risk. They try something new. They give it a go. They risk failure. They risk getting it wrong, and they risk getting ridicule of what might happen if it doesn't work. So the entrepreneurs, with the passion that they have, do step outside that comfort zone and try new things. And know that it may not always work. Finding humour. The ability to be able to have a laugh at yourself. And I think in New Zealand we do this very well. There are jokes that I can tell in this country that I cannot tell in any other country I've worked in. We have an amazing sense of humour. And some of the jokes I tell in New Zealand don't work in Australia. Not the Australian jokes, of course. But there are things you can say that New Zealand will have a good laugh at, and people in the other country go, ooh, she said that. We just have that we can laugh at ourselves, can't we? We have that sort of ability, and very important when we're in business. Thinking interdependently, being able to create networks and work with others and think together and have different roles and work together as a team, again, very important role. Even if you work by yourself, finding those people who can work with you is important. And then the 16th one, and there could be many more, is remaining open to continual learning. Are you continually learning? Are you keeping up with the current knowledge? Are you open to knowing that we don't always know the answers? So that is the quick flyby of the 16 habits of mind. And if we were to look at some of them in a little bit more depth, and I particularly say persistence is one that you need in business. I was telling Sally earlier, I've been in business for 17 years, and the first 9 years I did not make more money than I made in teaching. And in the first 9 years, my husband told me 3 times I had to close the business because it wasn't feeding us, it was draining us. And 3 times I cried and said, this is what I'm here for. And you know, the persistence that it takes to sometimes continue. But you also need to know when is a good time to give up. So you don't want to hang on to everything for dear life and lose everything. So there's that fine line of knowing when do you persist and when do you let go. And successful people do this. So if you were just to reflect for just a couple of seconds on when have you persisted in your life and when has it really paid off? Because it's that kind of reflection when you think about the skills and strategies you had to employ to do that. Because those are the skills and strategies, whether it was stalking a husband or a prospective partner, or whether it was getting a driver's license, whatever it was, when you've persisted, what are the things that we do to persist? And when we can unpack that a little bit, it's much easier when you get into that situation, go, well, what did I do here? And so what can I do now? So being able to unpack those strategies of what is it you do to persist. And you know, for me, by the way, these habits of mine have been far more influential in my raising of my children than they have been in my business or my own personal life. Because for me, to be able to teach these skills to my own children is phenomenal. If I can teach my children to embrace these 16 habits of mine and persist, and for me to do that I have to unpack it. Well, they go, well, how do you persist? Well, you have to think of another strategy. Well, how do you do that? Well, think about what you did last time. So there are many layers and depths to this, which are lovely. But if we just look at successful people, I know it's not working because it's just in any realm of life, and I've just chosen 5, but think about how has persistence helped somebody to get a gold medal. And I happen to know this gentleman very well, and he, when he got his gold medals at the Olympic Games for swimming, Damien Loader, 2 gold medals, it had taken him 10 years of training 8 hours a day. That's persistence, right? That's persistence, and that's true dedication and focus, 10 years. And Malcolm Gladwell says in his book Outliers, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, he suggests that it takes 10,000 hours before you become an expert at something. 10,000 hours of practice. Professional musicians, again, it's the practice. The leaders, people with disabilities, an animal trainer, the clicker training they use to, you cannot tell a killer whale off when you're training them. You cannot say, bad whale, it will eat you. Right? So they have to use only positive reinforcement and clicker training. We were at the zoo in Wellington, and I asked the zookeeper, how long does it take to train a bird to raise its wings? He said 6 weeks. I said, how long does it take you to train the big cats to roll over? He said, about 6 months. I said, how long does it take to train husbands? He didn't answer my question. That's impossible. Oh, okay. I'll give up then. Persist. Managing impulsivity, of course, is also an important skill. And being able to know what to do in different situations. And I want to show you this. And how would you respond in this situation if you were this woman? And think about being able to manage that impulsivity and the impulsive thoughts you might have. So just, let's see if it works. woman at that point in time? What would you tell her? Strategies. But you see, next time you're emotionally flooded, and next time you're really cross and angry about something and the emotions start coming, what we totally know about the brain is when you're emotionally flooded, it's very difficult to think logically. In fact, it's impossible to think logically. They're in two completely different parts of the brain. So when you're emotionally flooded, you have to have strategies to get yourself out of that and being able to help you do that. So what strategies do you use to manage your impulsivity on those times? And I was saying to Sally, you know, one of the simple ones that I've discovered in my own home is when I come home and find the shoes in the middle of the lounge or socks under the table for my children. And it's continual. And, you know, the sort of thing when you've had a hard day you can just snap on. I've realised, whose problem is it? It's my problem. And here I am yelling and screaming at my kids because it's like, those shoes are in the middle of the floor again. It's like, actually, they don't care. It's not, they don't have a problem with it. I have the problem with it. So at that point, I have a choice, right? I can blow up and explode, or I can just shift the shoes because they're in my way. Or I can just leave them there and they'll know where they are and they'll go to get them. Whatever, but you have choices at any moment, and it's stopping that emotional flooding. At the time, when you're emotionally flooded, it's difficult. It's that being able to step back afterwards and say, what could I have done differently? How could I do that better is important. Now, one of the things that happens is when we get emotionally flooded, sometimes what I call fear pops up. Now, fear is what I call false expectations that appear real. And so fear pops up in business a lot. It's like, well, if I do that, what if it doesn't work? The fear of failure, and well, there's two fears that I believe that drive us as New Zealanders particularly. And one is the fear of failure. Many of us don't try something because we're scared of failing. Now, I have to tell you the truth. I went through high school, I went through teachers college, I went through university, and the first time I'd ever failed something was first year university. I failed Education 101. Now, I was so in fear of my parents finding out, I cheated on the next assignment to assure my overall grade was a pass mark so they would never know. Now, they still don't know that I failed because they're bribery. So I don't care anymore. If you want to tell Canterbury University I don't deserve my degree, you can go ahead because it doesn't matter to me anymore. However, I didn't have strategies. I didn't know how to fail. And school, for me, is probably, having that good education was probably one of the worst things that's happened to me to be an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. Because it was like school teaches you to do as you're told, to stay on, you know, to be good, to answer the questions and deviate and you get in trouble. But as a businesswoman, I need to deviate. I need to do things that no one's tried before. I need to give things a go. So the fear comes up, and the fear of failure is huge, and one I still deal with. But there's another fear in this country, and that is the fear of success. We call it the tall poppy syndrome. What if people realise I don't know what I'm really talking about? What if people find out that I had help? Or what if people expect more of me now and I can't do it? What if? And part of my challenge, if I teach you nothing else tonight, and for your own children and for your own sanity, all of you who went to school in this country or England went through a school system that failed 50% of students, whether you were good or not, because it was based on the model, the manufacturing model that said, let's fail 50% of them, let's teach them they're dumb, let's teach them they're stupid, and then they'll work in the factories. In 1906 in this country, there was a document in the government that said, let's model that education system, let's fail 50% of kids, it doesn't matter who they are, let's just fail 50%, and they will go and work on the land. We still have the same education system. We still have it. And I have to say, I don't want to get political, but the National Party policy of national standards, if you don't truly understand what that means for education, it's going to get worse. It is so going to get worse. I'm not opposed to the National Party, I'm opposed to their standards. And understanding that education for our kids is going to get so much worse. We absolutely know that from other countries. So, but this fear of success Our kids don't want to be successful. Do you remember in school, this is a high-risk move? Putting your hand up, goody two-shoes, teacher's pet, you might know the answer. You always know the answer. And as business people, we have to be proud to be successful. We have to say, hey, it's okay to be successful. But I know, when I won the award of New Zealand Businesswoman of the Year in 2001, what a proud moment that was. I had the worst year ever in business that next year because the fear of success caused me to sabotage everything that I had worked for. And I nearly lost everything in many, many different ways. By gosh, I sabotaged by not just turning up, by not going to business meetings, by employing too many people, I just did it was like, when I look back now, I understand what happened, because I didn't want people to find out that I really didn't know what I was talking about in business. It's like, what if they found out, I don't know why and how I won, but I know it was a proud moment, but it's like, I'm not worthy. I'm not that good. And
why do we think that way?
it's our culture. It is a culture we have in this country.
Woman as well.
There is a woman culture. There is the woman culture of this too. Yeah. So it's a whole nother workshop. But it's something we, as businesswomen and as role models for our young girls, need to be very clear on, and be very, and all our children, to be able to say, hey, it's okay to be successful, and really celebrate that. Look, our media, no offense, but our media does this a lot. Our media, when Sir Peter Blake won the America's Cup, the headline in the Herald was, "Who owns his house?" That's what the headline was. Who cares? Maybe he's smart and put it in a trust which is owned by another trust to protect his assets, but that was the headline, because people were going, he's banking his assets so that no one can touch them. It's like, that's actually smart, right? So we have this culture, but what we want to do in business is change that around, and being able to take those responsible risks, being able to step outside our comfort zone, being able to say, hey, I'm going to give this a go, is very, very important. And in business, when you look at successful entrepreneurs in this country, when we look at the people who have done so well, tradesmen, Sam Morgan opts out of university, saying they're not going to teach me how to be an entrepreneur, and we know the success story there. Suzanne Paul, what an incredible woman. Not only do I want to have legs like hers when I'm her age, but I don't have them now, so it's not much hope. Natural glow. Not only did she lose everything, she came back and said, I'm going to pay all those people back, and I'm going to make myself successful again. What an amazing entrepreneur to be able to do that. Most people in this country, when they fail to that extent and publicly acknowledged for that, would leave this country. We're small, right? You can't hide. People who are in business in England, if you screw up in England, you can just carry on, because no one talk. It's just too big for people to know and talk about what's happening. But this country is too small for that. So, look, we could go through this guy. Michael Hill did not start his business until he was over 40 years old. I'm like, there's hope, right? You don't have to do it when you're young. It's like, what amazing role models we have. AJ Hackett. I stood under the Eiffel Tower on my 40th birthday going, how did he do that? How did he bungee jump from the Eiffel Tower? And how did he get the stuff up there? Just what a success story from someone who, was just a reckless kid, throwing things off bridges and having a lot of fun. And of course, Anne Geddes, who sold everything she owned, her house, everything, and said, I'm going to put everything I've got into this business. It might not have worked, but that passion and that drive to take those responsible risks and give it a go and find out. Actually, what I believe is when everything is on the line, it's much easier to succeed.
Yeah.
There's no backstop. Yeah, there's more clarity. It's like I have no choice but to succeed and move forward. I'm not suggesting you do that irresponsibly. Just the waiver. All right?
I'm at that point now.
Yeah, to move forward. The next habit of mine I think is so important in business is this being able to find humour. And I just bought one because I know my time was very short. But I love this. Not tonight, dear. Didn't you get my email? Because it's not quite so funny, because in 17 years in business, I come home and I think, oh, I'll just check my emails. And I'm checking my emails, and my husband's in the lounge, and he's checking his, and he's doing his Facebook, and he's looking at every sports page there is. And it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, and he Skypes me from the lounge. I'm in the dining room. We can see each other. He Skypes me, says, "Are you ready for bed?" Why are we doing this? This is not what I signed up for. And so I made a rule: no checking emails after 8 o'clock at night. It's like. It's my rule. It's my personal standard. It's not his. So he's still doing his, but I'm like, I need to have these personal standards for myself. So we have to find that humour in it, though, don't we? And say, this is great. And the last one is, the 16th one is this being open to continual learning. I think as an entrepreneur, there's always so much to learn. I've always had a business coach in business. And I don't support any particular coaches, but I've had a business coach who's worked with me for years on and off in different capacities. My business coach is now an independent director of my business. And so even after 17 years of trying everything and failing at many things, I still have someone who can be that person I can bounce ideas off, who can be that person I say, what do you think of this? Or who is also that person who kicks me up the backside when I haven't done what I said I would do. By the way, mother-in-laws are good for this too. And unfortunately mine passed on. She was fantastic. I just tell her what I was going to do, and the next time, have you done that thing yet? No. Have you done that? No, you just got to do it to get her off your case. But I always have CDs in my car. I'm listening continually to inspirational people and learning, and I listen to them over and over and over again. When I started in business, I listened to Brad Sugars on marketing because I so understood that the marketing is the key. You can have the best business in the world, but if you don't know how to market it, no one knows about it, what's the point? And I got to the point, and I'm friends with Brad now, and I got to the point I would get in my car and I'd say, "Morning, Brad," turn the car on. But I got to the point that I started dreaming about him. So I stopped listening for a while. I did the whole Tony Robbins thing. I've got, for 7 years, every person in my company did this 30 days to personal power. I made the time, but we stopped and we did the 1 hour CD. I worked with some of the world's great thinkers and had them coach me personally, just because that's the way I get good at what I do. It's the books you read, it's the people you listen to, it's the seminars you go to. And for me, being a teacher, one of the saddest things I find in teaching is that most of our teachers are not learners. And I find that extremely sad. They don't like learning. They go, "Oh, do we have to go to a conference? Oh, do we have to go to that professional development?" Many of them are not, many of them aren't inspiring, and it's like, yeah, not again. But what about that thirst for learning? And I think as entrepreneurs, we must have that thirst for learning. We must have that excitement about learning new things and be able to take them into our life and transform what we do and who we are, and then be able to help others with what we do. So they are the 16 habits of mine in a very quick nutshell. And I know Sally said 3-4 hours, but what she meant was 3-4 days.
Yes, that's right.
Just to get the surface, just for the surface, we have a 4-day boot camp, and that is just the surface. But please just turn to the person next to you. If you were to choose one of these particular habits to start adopting more as a habit, to start weaving into your life to help you be successful, which one might it be? It doesn't have to be one, but which ones might it be? 2 or 3? Turn to the person next to you and just tell them. quotes. The first one is, if you're a parent, don't worry that your children don't listen to you. Worry that they're always watching you. Yeah, you are their model. And what they see you doing, and you know, I hear businesswomen being guilty about not being home. I travel 200 days of the year, I'm not with my children. My children are 9 and 12 now, and I'm not with them. My husband is a full-time dad for them. However, I'm not with them, and there is that woman guilt I get for not being there. However, I absolutely know I'm being an incredible role model for them.
Absolutely.
Around business, yeah. And so we have to reframe some of these thought processes we have, but worry that they're watching you. The other one is this: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but it is a habit. Absolutely. And we have to get into that act and that habit, the habit of doing these intelligent behaviours over and over and over again. Stopping and journaling. Go and find successful people. They will tell you they journal. They write down their thoughts and their feelings and what's going on, and they stop and they reflect on those. They have people to bounce ideas off. They have the coaches. They have to balance that life. My husband and I still work with a parent coach who comes into our home. She's never met our children because the parenting issues we have nothing to do with our children. Isn't that scary? It's all to do with us. It's all to do with us. And we still call her every now and then, oh my God, we're just going crazy. She comes into our home, she talks to us, we go through, she talks about child development, what the brain is going through right now. And even though I teach some of this stuff, sometimes I just need someone to tell me.
So is it your frame of reference you're talking about from when you were a child to what you know, like, so your frame of reference is this, and that's how you're displaying it with your children, is that what you mean? And she's pointing out the flaws in that frame of reference?
Sometimes, and sometimes it's the miscommunication in our parenting, and sometimes it's just not understanding what the children are going through, like the terrible twos. They have to go through that terrible twos for the brain to develop emotion. Same around puberty. And same around 40 years old, by the way. Same thing happens in the brain at 2, puberty, and 40. The brain starts a pruning process, it gets rid of what it hasn't used. It's not a bad thing. But yeah, so it's like someone just saying, hey, have you looked at it from this perspective? Helping us stop being emotionally flooded around it. It is just astonishing. And there they are. Oh, they were younger there. But isn't it awesome? Can I use that? What I love about being a speaker, people say something that's funny and I go, I'm going to use that. So that helps me be better as a speaker. Thank you very much. What's your name? I need to finish because we've run out of time, but in any way you can embrace any of these particular behaviours and habits in your own life, in your business, in your with your clients and with your own family. They are just incredible. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for your participation this afternoon, and go well in your businesses. Thank you.